Our money is causing harm. In 2019, the Amazon rainforest was on fire. Social media were talking about it. Petitions were signed, donations were made. The lungs of our planet were burning. I wanted to understand more about the issue to see if it was preventable. And what I understood is that the forest fires of 2019 weren't associated with a considerable period of drought. In fact, experts point out to the fact that most of these fires are not natural, but they're related to economic activity in the region. They usually happen along transport axes or near areas of recent agriculture expansion. I then found out that 3 companies bought cattle from a combined 379 ranches worth 20,000 football fields of illegal deforestation area in the Amazon state of Para between 2017 and 2019. These 3 companies were funded in hundreds of millions of dollars by European banks. And from these banks, mine was included. It got to me. I was acting on a daily basis for a better future. My money was doing the total opposite. I went vegetarian. I gave up my car. I only traveled by bicycle to understand that my money was doing the total opposite. It especially got to me when I learned that the way our money is invested can have up to 27 times more impact in terms of carbon emission reduction than our daily consumption habits. That's 27 times. I had to do something. So I took a pen. Actually, I wrote an email, and I sent a letter to my bank. I asked them what my money was contributing to. But even after a few reminders, that letter stayed unanswered. So I thought, what if we send dozens and hundreds of letters to banks? They won't be able to ignore that many. So that's how My Money, My Planet started. My Money, My Planet was a first step in my journey, and it was a campaign with 2 main goals. First, raise awareness on the impact of our money in the real world, and second, get banks to change to the better. It was simple. On a website, you could just go and send a letter directly to your bank. We also encourage you to post a selfie on social media and tag your bank with the same question. What did your money contribute to? So, first goal was to raise awareness. We succeeded, but not without any difficulties. The first thing we realized is that people are uncomfortable talking about money. And recent findings from MasterCard show that money is the topic British are the most uncomfortable talking about. And this discomfort stems from the fear of judgment. People with less resources fear being looked down upon as lazy or stupid. People with more resources fear being exploited, being liked for what they have and not for who they are. So there's this discomfort and this social stigma around money that suggests that we're more likely to talk about sex than we are to talk about money. Great. On top of that, we encountered a lot of people that didn't realize that the banks actually used their money on savings account to then invest it. They thought it was just laying there, not being used. So we had to start our campaign with financial explanation of how a bank works. So let's take a step back and do a quick recap of how a bank works. We as individuals put our money onto savings accounts. Those banks use that aggregated sum of money to then invest it or lend it to organizations, companies, or individuals like you and I. That money can contribute to fossil fuel projects or renewable energy ones. It can be put into social housing or weapons creation. The goal it's invested in defines the impact of your money. But despite the discomforts and despite the financial explanation needed, we succeeded. We sent over 1,100 letters to banks to ask what our money was contributing to. So we raised awareness. Now it was about getting banks to change to the better. In the letters that we sent, we focused on getting transparency. We wanted to keep a collaborative approach to then maybe work together with the banks on how they could invest to the better. Our first surprise is that this didn't seem to be a common inquiry. People don't seem to question the investments made by banks. So we had to wait a few weeks for a first answer, but after that, we got around a 70% response rate. Something else that we found out is that banks don't fear losing customers, as getting people to act on their money is tough. Stats show that someone getting married is more likely to get divorced than to change the bank account that they had on their wedding day. Imagine. So, people acted, sent letters, banks were reacting, and now we had answers. What could we do with the answers? In certain countries, NGOs have established a ranking of the sustainability of the investments made by banks. And we had that ranking available for the countries My Money, My Planet was in. So we could compare the ranking with the letters and answers received. What we realized is that the longer the answer, the less sustainable the investments were. In French, we have a saying, la culture, c'est comme la confiture, moins tu en as, plus tu l'étales. Well, in this case, with sustainability and the letters we received, it was the same. The less sustainable the investments were, the less jam they had, the more they spread it, the longer the answers were. After dozens and hundreds of letters received, banks called us. They reached out to us for a meeting. And in those meetings, we understood what prevented them to change. And we understood their point of view. And they put forward two main reasons. First, as they aggregate the money to then invest it, there's no clear link between your money and the investments made. And second, the contracts that they have with some of the investments are bound for 10 to 15 years. So change can come, but it won't be soon. So today, there's no My Money, My Planet anymore, but I haven't given my final word. And this time, I went the opposite way. I focused on reaching out to a financial institution that could make the change to the better. And that's why I'm focusing on pension funds. And because I learned that we always need a financial explanation, let's take a step back and go through what pension funds are. Pension funds are a pouch of money that is invested for your future self at retirement age. Usually, different stakeholders can contribute to it. That's your employer and yourself. In some countries, you also have a state pension fund, but that varies from country to country. And why pension funds? Because unlike banks, the link between your money and the investment made is quite clear. I understood that the pension fund of the last employer I was at invested and still actually does invest my money into companies drilling in the Arctic. Great, but at least I know it. The second thing is that change can happen quicker than in banks. And an example is that a pension fund in Belgium changed their investment only after 5 of their customers requested more sustainability. That's 5 customers. We sent more than 1,100 letters. And also, pension funds have a symbolic. Your future and your pension go hand in hand. The money I invest for myself in more than 30 years' time should contribute to what my future needs. Research also shows that sustainability and profits go together, as positive ratings on environmental, social, and governance criteria lead to better return on investments. At the last climate march I was at last month, I saw a sign that said, if the climate was a bank, it would have been saved already. During the financial crisis of 2008-2009 in the US, they spent around 3.5% of their GDP to save financial institutions deemed too big to fail. A recent poll from Reuters shows that we would need around 3% of our annual global GDP to prevent ourselves from catastrophic climate change and get to a net zero carbon economy. So what if we considered our planet as too big to fail? And we should go and work with the financial institutions together, as we know that they're here to stay. And change can come. And if you dream big, if the 3 largest funds in the world change the way they invest, that would be over 22,000 billion US dollars. That's 3 funds. If they change, that saves our future. So let's go out there. Let's take the power of our money and let's make it ours. Let's be proud of its impact. Because today, finance rules the world, and I'm convinced that we can change it together for the better.